Imagine you are trekking through the deepest, most unexplored regions of the Congo Basin. The air is so thick with humidity you can practically taste it, and the canopy above is so dense that it feels like twilight even at noon. Suddenly, the water in a nearby swamp begins to churn, and a massive reptilian neck rises from the depths, topped by a head that looks like it belongs in the Jurassic period. You fumble for your camera, your heart hammering against your ribs, and you snap a single blurry photo before the creature vanishes back into the murk. For over 65 million years, the world has been told that the age of the dinosaurs is over, a lost chapter in the history of our planet. But what if the textbooks are wrong? What if some of these ancient titans didn't get the memo about extinction? Today, we are diving into the most chilling, mysterious, and controversial pieces of evidence ever captured on film. From deep-sea monsters that defy biological classification, to jungle dwellers that look exactly like Triceratops, we are looking at dinosaurs caught on camera that shouldn't exist. Stick around, because the final clip in today's countdown comes from a remote mountain range in Papua New Guinea and shows a creature so anatomically impossible that it has left world-leading paleontologists scratching their heads in disbelief. Let's start our journey in the heart of Africa with perhaps the most famous living dinosaur legend of all time, the Mokele Mbembe. For centuries, the indigenous people of the Likoala swamp region have spoken of a creature that translates to one who stops the flow of rivers. They describe it as a massive animal, bigger than an elephant but with a long, flexible neck and a tail like an alligator. In the late 20th century, several expeditions ventured into these treacherous wetlands hoping to find proof. One of the most intriguing pieces of evidence is a short, grainy video clip captured by a Japanese film crew in the late 80s. In the footage, a large, dark shape can be seen moving through the water, creating a massive wake that no crocodile or hippo could ever produce. As the object rises slightly, you can clearly see a serpentine neck swaying above the surface. Critics say it's just a swimming elephant or a trick of the light, but the locals, who know every animal in that swamp, insist it is something else entirely. They say it is a living relic, a sauropod dinosaur that has survived in the isolation of the Congo for millions of years. When you look at that footage, you have to ask yourself, if a creature that size is hiding in a swamp the size of Florida that has never been fully mapped, how many other secrets is the Earth keeping from us? Moving from the humid swamps of Africa to the icy, wind-swept waters of the North Atlantic, we find ourselves looking at images that challenge everything we know about marine biology. In the early 2000s, a deep-sea research vessel off the coast of Norway was deploying a remote-operated vehicle to inspect underwater cables at a depth of over 2,000 meters. As the camera panned across the rocky seabed, it caught a glimpse of a creature that looked exactly like a plesiosaur. You know the one, the long-necked marine reptile with 4 powerful flippers that was supposed to have vanished alongside the T-Rex. The photo captured by the ROV shows a distinct, streamlined body with a neck that is easily 3 times the length of its torso. Unlike a whale or a giant eel, this creature possessed lateral appendages that moved in a flight-like motion through the water, a locomotory style unique to plesiosaurs. Scientists who viewed the image were baffled. Some suggested it might be a new species of shark with a bizarre deformity, but the skeletal structure visible through the translucent skin suggested something much older. Could the deep ocean, with its vast, crushing depths and stable temperatures, serve as a sanctuary for prehistoric marine life? If these creatures never had to deal with the asteroid impact because they lived deep enough, maybe they just kept evolving in the dark, waiting for a camera to finally find them. Now let's head over to the American Southwest, a land of red rocks, deep canyons, and ancient legends. The thunderbirds of the indigenous tribes are well known, described as massive birds with wingspans so wide they could block out the sun. But in the late 1800s, a story emerged from Arizona that included a photograph that has become the holy grail of cryptozoology. The legend tells of 2 cowboys who encountered a massive flying reptilian creature in the desert. They claimed to have brought it down and even took a photograph of it pinned to a barn door, with 6 men standing in front of it to show the scale. For decades, people have searched for this missing Thunderbird photo. While many fakes have circulated online, a specific image surfaced in an old private collection in the 1990s that many believe is the real deal. It shows a creature with leathery wings, a bony crest on its head, and a long, beak-like jaw. It looks identical to a pteranodon. Skeptics claim the photo is a clever darkroom trick, but the lighting and the physical texture of the creature in the image match the environment perfectly. If a small population of pterosaurs survived in the remote canyons of the Sierra Madre, they would have plenty of space to hide from modern eyes. Just imagine looking up into a desert sunset and seeing a silhouette that hasn't changed since the Cretaceous period. But it's not just in the wild that these things appear. Sometimes the evidence is carved right into the stone of history. In the Ta Prohm Temple in Cambodia, built in the late 12th century, there is a stone carving that has sparked a massive debate among historians and biologists alike. Amidst carvings of monkeys, deer, and parrots, there is a clear, detailed depiction of a stegosaurus. It has the heavy body, the small head, and most importantly, the vertical plates running down its back. How did a temple builder in the 1200s know exactly what a stegosaurus looked like, centuries before the first fossils were ever officially reconstructed by modern science? Some say it's just a rhinoceros with decorative leaves behind it, but if you look at the anatomy, it's a near-perfect match for the dinosaur. This has led many to believe that the builders saw these creatures with their own eyes. Perhaps a few small pockets of stegosaurs survived in the dense jungles of Southeast Asia well into the human era. This carving isn't a blurry photo. It's a permanent record in stone that suggests our timeline of extinction might be off by a few million years. Let's shift our focus to the Amazon rainforest, the most biodiverse place on the planet. In the 1960s, a group of explorers traveling deep into the Mato Grosso region claimed to have seen a creature they called the mapinguari. While many describe it as a giant ground sloth, several photographs taken by a Brazilian botanist show something far more reptilian. The images show a heavily armored animal with a hide that looks like it's made of bone plates, similar to an ankylosaurus. The creature is seen moving through a clearing, its low-slung body and club-like tail casting a long shadow in the afternoon sun. The botanist wrote in his journal that the animal smelled of rotting vegetation and made a sound like a low-frequency hum that he could feel in his chest. The photos are striking because they show an animal that fits no known classification of modern South American wildlife. If an armored dinosaur managed to persist in the vast, inaccessible reaches of the Amazon, it would be virtually untouchable by predators. It would be a living fortress, walking through the jungle as a remnant of a bygone age. Now, we have to talk about the strange case of the Zuiomaru carcass. In 1977, a Japanese trawler fishing off the coast of New Zealand pulled up a massive, decaying body from the ocean depths. The crew was so disgusted by the smell that they nearly threw it back immediately, but not before taking several high-quality color photographs and saving some tissue samples. The images show a creature with a long neck, 4 large flippers, and a long tail. It looked exactly like the remains of a plesiosaur. When the photos reached Japan, they caused a national sensation. Scientific committees were formed, and for a while it seemed like we had definitive proof. However, later analysis of the tissue samples suggested the proteins were similar to those of a basking shark, but many experts remain skeptical of the shark theory. They argue that the skeletal structure shown in the photographs, specifically the neck vertebrae and the symmetry of the flippers, does not match a shark's anatomy, even in a state of decay. The crew, who saw the body in person, insisted it was a reptile. Those photographs remain some of the most debated images in the history of science. Did they find a prehistoric survivor? Or did the ocean just play a very convincing trick on our eyes? Let's move to the remote islands of Indonesia, specifically the area around the Komodo National Park. We all know about the Komodo dragons, the world's largest lizards. But there have been sightings of something even bigger, something that hasn't been seen since the Pleistocene. In the early 2000s, a group of tourists on a trekking expedition captured a video of a monitor lizard that appeared to be over 30 feet long. For context, the largest Komodo dragons barely reach 10 feet. This creature, caught moving through the tall grass, looked remarkably like the Megalania, a giant prehistoric lizard that was a contemporary of some dinosaur-like species. The footage is shaky, but you can see the massive girth of the animal and its incredible speed. If the Megalania, or a descendant of a similar large saurian, is still roaming the islands of Indonesia, it would change our understanding of island gigantism and survival. These islands are rugged, sparsely populated, and full of caves. It's the perfect place for a giant to hide in plain sight. One of the most chilling reports comes from the outback of Australia, a place where the landscape itself feels ancient. There is a legend of the Burundjur, a massive bipedal lizard that terrorizes livestock in the Northern Territory. In the 1950s, a rancher claimed to have tracked an animal that was eating his cattle, and he managed to snap a photograph of a footprint next to his own boot. The footprint was three-toed and measured over 24 inches across. But the real evidence came a decade later when a bush pilot reported seeing a pair of large, two-legged reptiles running through a dry riverbed. He snapped a photo from his cockpit that shows two silhouettes with massive hind legs, small forearms, and a heavy tail held out for balance. They look like a small species of theropod, perhaps a relative of the Allosaurus. Australia has been geographically isolated for millions of years, and its vast interior is almost entirely unpopulated. If a small population of predatory dinosaurs survived there, they would have plenty of kangaroos and livestock to keep them fed. That cockpit photo, though distant, shows a posture that is uniquely dinosaurian, something that no modern lizard or bird could replicate. Now, let's go to the Himalayas, the roof of the world. While most people look for the Yeti, there have been reports of strange reptilian creatures in the high-altitude valleys that remain snow-free due to geothermal activity. In the 1970s, a mountain climber reported seeing a creature that looked like a small, feathered dinosaur. He took a photograph of a bird-like animal about the size of a turkey, but instead of a beak, it had a snout filled with tiny teeth and a long, bony tail. The feathers were vibrant and iridescent. This matches the modern scientific consensus of what many small raptors actually looked like. They weren't scaly green monsters. They were feathered, bird-like hunters. The photo captured by the climber shows an animal that perfectly bridges the gap between dinosaurs and birds. If these feathered raptors found a way to survive in the isolated, warm valleys of the Himalayas, they would be a living link to the origin of every bird we see today. The photo is incredibly detailed, showing the fine structure of the feathers and the curve of the predatory claws. Let's head back to Africa, but this time to the Kasai region. In the 1930s, a plantation owner named John Johnson claimed to have encountered two massive creatures fighting in a clearing. He described them as giant lizards with red and black scales and a row of spikes down their backs. He managed to capture a photograph of one of the creatures as it retreated into the forest. The image shows a massive, low-slung animal that looks like a Dimetrodon, the sail-backed reptile from before the age of the dinosaurs. While Dimetrodon isn't technically a dinosaur, its survival would be even more shocking, as it was supposed to have vanished nearly 300 million years ago. The photograph is old and faded, but the distinct shape of the dorsal sail is unmistakable. Critics say it could be a large monitor lizard with a strange skin flap, but the sheer size of the animal in relation to the surrounding trees suggests something much more substantial. Why would such a creature exist in Africa? Perhaps the stable climate of the tropical rainforests allowed ancient lineages to persist while the rest of the world changed. In the waters off the coast of Florida, there is a legend of a creature named Pinky. It's described as a long-necked sea monster that frequents the St. John's River. In the 1970s, a local fisherman took a series of Polaroid photos that appear to show a creature with a long, undulating neck and a small head skimming the water's surface. Unlike a manatee or a dolphin, the neck moves with a grace that suggests a complex internal structure. The photos are fascinating because they were taken in broad daylight with multiple witnesses. Some suggest it's a rogue colony of geese or an escaped exotic pet, but the scale of the neck, estimated to be over 6 feet long, doesn't fit any known modern animal in North America. Could a plesiosaur-like creature be living in the complex river systems and lagoons of Florida? With plenty of fish and a warm climate, it's not impossible. These photos remain a local mystery, a reminder that even in populated areas, the water can hold shadows of the past. We also have to look at the strange dinosaur of the Vatican. Inside the Vatican archives, there is a series of sketches and descriptions from early explorers who visited the New World in the 16th century, along with descriptions of jaguars and armadillos. There is a detailed drawing and a written account of a beast of the plains that has 3 horns on its head and a massive shield of bone. It sounds exactly like a triceratops. The explorer noted that the animal was rare and highly aggressive, and he even included a small charcoal sketch that he claimed was made from a carcass he found. How could a 16th century explorer describe a triceratops so accurately if the first fossils weren't found until the 1800s? This suggests that these horned giants might have roamed the American plains much more recently than we think. If they were still around 500 years ago, is it so hard to believe a few might still be hiding in the wilder parts of the continent today? Now, let's talk about the ocean again. In the 1950s, a British naval officer on a ship in the South Pacific reported seeing a massive, serpentine creature from the deck. He had his camera with him and took a photograph of a long, dark neck rising at least 15 feet out of the water. The image is incredible because it shows the texture of the skin, which appears to be scaly and dark gray. The creature was keeping pace with the ship for several minutes before diving. The officer was a trained observer, and his testimony, combined with the photograph, is considered some of the best evidence for the existence of large, unidentified marine reptiles. The photo has been analyzed by numerous experts, and while they can't say for sure what it is, they agree it's not a whale, a shark, or a giant squid. It's something that shouldn't be there. It's a dinosaur of the deep. In the dense forests of West Africa, there are stories of a creature called the Emelantuka. It is described as a forest-dwelling rhinoceros, but with a tail like a crocodile and a single, massive horn made of bone, not hair like a rhino. In the 1990s, a group of researchers managed to photograph a large, gray animal from behind as it moved through the brush. The photo shows a heavy, muscular tail dragging on the ground, a feature no modern rhino or elephant possesses. The tail is thick at the base and tapers toward the end, looking exactly like the tail of a ceratopsian dinosaur. The locals fear this animal more than any other, saying it is a solitary fighter that can even take on a bull elephant. If a horned dinosaur like the Monoclonius survived in the African interior, it would be the ultimate apex herbivore, a prehistoric tank hiding in the green. Let's look at a more modern piece of evidence. In 2012, a video surfaced from a remote part of Russia, showing what appeared to be a woolly mammoth crossing a river. While a mammoth isn't a dinosaur, it falls into that same category of extinct animals that might not be extinct. The footage shows a large, hairy animal with a clear trunk and massive curved tusks. The way it moves through the icy water is heavy and deliberate. Is it possible that the vastness of the Siberian tundra has allowed a small population of mammoths to survive? If a creature as large as a mammoth can hide in the north, why couldn't a dinosaur hide in the south? These remote regions are so massive and so difficult to patrol that anything could be living there. That video, though debated, reminds us that the world is a lot bigger than our maps suggest. Now we come to the Pacific Northwest and the legends of the Cadborosaurus, or caddy. For over a century, people in British Columbia have reported a sea serpent with a horse-like head and a long, serpentine body. In the 1930s, a carcass was found inside the stomach of a sperm whale. Photographs were taken of the remains, which were about 10 feet long and had a bizarre, camel-like head and flippers. The photos show a creature that looks like a juvenile version of a prehistoric marine reptile. The bones were sent to a museum but mysteriously disappeared before they could be fully analyzed. Those photographs are all that remain of what could have been the most important biological discovery of the century. They show a vertebrate that fits no known family of modern animals. Was it a baby dinosaur of the sea, swallowed by a whale millions of years after its kind was supposed to be gone? We must also consider the strange sightings in the marshes of South Carolina. For years, locals have reported seeing a creature they call the lizard man, but more recent descriptions and photos from a local hunter show a different picture. The hunter captured a trail camera image of a bipedal reptile with a long, stiff tail and three-toed tracks. The animal appears to be about 7 feet tall. It looks remarkably like an ornithomimus, a fast-running dinosaur that resembled a modern ostrich but with a long tail and reptilian skin. The trail camera photo is clear enough to see the scales on the legs and the way the light reflects off the amber-colored eyes. If these fast-moving saurians are still inhabiting the deep marshes and swamps of the American South, they are doing a great job of staying away from the cities. But every now and then, they step in front of a lens and remind us they are there. Let's go back to Papua New Guinea. The island is one of the most rugged and unexplored places on Earth. In the 1990s, a group of villagers on a remote island reported seeing a giant lizard that walked on 2 legs and had a row of spikes down its back. They called it the dinosaur. A researcher who visited the island managed to take a photograph of a footprint that was deep and clearly 3-toed, but he also captured a distant photo of a creature in the mangroves. It shows a dark, bipedal shape with a long tail and a head that looks like a theropod. The anatomy is perfect for an animal that lives in a coastal, swampy environment. The photo is haunting because the creature looks so prehistoric, so completely out of time. If any place on Earth could host a surviving dinosaur, it's Papua New Guinea. Its mountains are so steep and its jungles so dense that entire tribes remain uncontacted by the outside world. Think about the coelacanth. For years, scientists were absolutely certain it had been extinct for 65 million years. They had only seen it in fossils. Then, in 1938, a living one was caught off the coast of South Africa. It hadn't changed at all. It was a living fossil. If a fish can survive for 65 million years without us noticing, why couldn't a dinosaur? The ocean is deep, the jungles are thick, and the deserts are vast. We like to think we have conquered the world, that we have mapped every inch, but the truth is we are only scratching the surface. These photographs and videos, while often blurry and debated, represent the possibility that the world is much more magical and ancient than we allow ourselves to believe. What if some of these creatures aren't just surviving, but thriving? What if the reason we only get blurry photos is that they have evolved to be the ultimate masters of camouflage? After millions of years of avoiding predators and environmental changes, the survivors would be the ones who are the best at not being seen. They would be the shadows in the water, the rustle in the leaves, the shape in the clouds of the desert. Every photo we see might just be the one time they slipped up, the one time they let their guard down. When you look at a photo of a creature that shouldn't exist, it challenges your worldview. It makes you realize that our knowledge is a work in progress. We are constantly rewriting the history of life on Earth. Just last year, we found out that some dinosaurs likely had colorful feathers and complex social structures. If we are still learning these basic things from fossils, imagine what we could learn from a living specimen. These photos are an invitation to keep exploring, to keep asking questions, and to never stop looking into the dark corners of our planet. The evidence is mounting. From the carvings of Cambodia to the videos of the Congo, the world is full of hints that the age of the dinosaurs never truly ended. It just went underground, underwater, and deep into the wild. The next time you are out in nature, far from the lights of the city, listen closely. That sound you hear might not just be the wind. It might be the breath of a giant that has seen the rise and fall of civilizations, a survivor of an age we can only dream of. The dinosaurs are still here, and they are waiting for us to find them. Imagine the day when a high-definition, undeniable video surfaces. A 4K clip of a brachiosaur grazing in a remote valley, or a pterosaur landing on a cliffside. On that day, the world will change forever. We will have to admit that we don't know as much as we thought we did. We will have to realize that our extinction dates are just guesses. Until then, we have these photos. Blurry, grainy, mysterious, and absolutely captivating. They are the ghosts of the Jurassic, caught on camera, reminding us that the Earth is a place of infinite mystery. So, the next time you see a strange shape in the water, or a bizarre silhouette in the trees, don't just dismiss it. Grab your camera, keep your eyes open, and remember that you might be looking at a living piece of history. The dinosaurs aren't just in the movies, and they aren't just in the museums. They are out there, in the wild, living their lives as they have for millions of years. And every now and then, they step into the light just long enough for us to catch them on camera. Stay curious, stay watchful, and never lose your sense of wonder. The world is much older and much wilder than it looks on a map. There are giants among us, and they are waiting to be seen. Keep looking, because the next dinosaur caught on camera might be the one that finally proves to the world that the ancient titans are still with us. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the mysterious and the prehistoric. The truth is out there, somewhere in the shadows of the forest or the depths of the sea. Until next time, keep exploring and keep believing in the impossible. The past is never truly gone. It's just waiting to be rediscovered. Let's make sure we're ready when it finally steps into the light.